Good afternoon everybody and welcome to the stream. Hope you're all well. I'm Robert from the El Magnifico Games channel, and today we're going to continue our usual Wednesday poetry and riddles. So we'll be beginning with Invocation by William Drummond of Hawthornden. That is this individual who you can see in the top right. Yes, Scottish poet. I won't read through his whole biography again, but his father passed on when he was 24, which led to him inheriting a title. And he was well respected during his life. Anyway. So let's get into it. Invocation. Phoebus arise, and paint the sable skies with azure white and red. Rouse Memnon's mother from her Tithon's bed, that she thy career may with roses spread. The nightingales thy coming each wail sing, make an eternal spring. Give life to this dark world which lieth dead. Spread forth thy golden hair in larger locks than thou wast wont before, an emperor-like decor, with diadem of pearl thy temples fair. Chase hence the ugly night, which serves but to make dear thy glorious light. This is that happy morn, that day, long wished day, of all my life so dark, if cruel stars have not my ruin sworn, and fate's not hope betray, which only white deserves, a diamond for ever should it mark. This is the morn should bring into this grove, my love, to hear and recompense my love, fair king, who all preserves, but show thy blushing beams, and thou too sweeter eyes shalt see than those which by piteous streams did once thy heart surprise. Nay, suns which shine as clear as thou whereunto thou did to Rome appear. Now, Flora, deck thyself in fairest guise, if that ye winds would hear a voice surpassing far Amphion's lyre. If stormy chiding stay, let Zephyr only breathe, and with her tresses play, kissing sometimes his purple ports of death. The winds all silent are, and Phoebus in his chair, in saffroning sea and air, make vanish every star. Night, like a drunkard, reels beyond the hills to shun his flaming wheels. The fields with flowers are decked in every hue, the clouds bespangle with bright gold their blue. Here is the pleasant place, and everything save her who all should grace. So that was the poem we finished on last week. Interesting poem. Quite a lot to consider, however. So we'll move on to the first new poem of this week, Madrigal. Now I believe Madrigal is the name of I believe it's a type of love song, if I recall correctly. Although it also gets used a lot as a term in poetry. A song for a small number of unaccompanied voices from the 13th century Italy. A polyphonic song for about 6 voices from the 16th century Italy, a short poem, often pastoral, and suitable to be set to music. Oh, I misremembered then. So it doesn't have any connotations of romance. Hold on, let me double check that. I'll check my physical dictionary. Nearly there. Madrigal. Short amatory poem. Okay, so yes. Amatory, so presumably that means of a amorous nature. Part song for several voices. Properly with elaborate contrapuntal imitation and without instrumental accompaniment. Okay, so it's not a love song, it's a love poem or a pastoral poem or a particular type of song that comes from Italian music. Yes, amatoral, of or relating to love, especially sexual love. So that's what a madrigal is, but that is also the title of this poem, it would seem. Like the Idalian queen, her hair about her eyne, with neck and breast ripe apples to be seen, at first glance of the morn, in cypresses' gardens gathering those fair flowers, which of her blood were born. I saw, but fainting saw, my paramours. The graces naked danced about the place, the winds and trees amazed, with silence on her gazed. The flowers did smile, like those upon her face, and as their aspen stalks those fingers bound, that she might read my case, a hyacinth I wished me in her hand. Interesting. Okay. Couple of things to check there. What's Idalian? I'm guessing that's probably relates to a location in Greece, but I could be wrong, or pertaining to Idalium, an ancient city of Cyprus where Aphrodite was worshipped. That makes sense. Ein. Plural of I. Obsolete plural. Interesting. I didn't know that. Her hair about her ein. I did notice where it talks about fair flowers which of her blood were born. I immediately thought that there's probably a Greek myth about that, and I was suspicious that it might relate to Aphrodite, but I don't know for certain. Paramours. We looked this up before. Was a paramour just a lover? Or was it something more specific than that? An illicit lover. Okay. Hyacinth. Let's look that up in the language of flowers. Hyacinth. Game. Play. Ooh. Oh, now that's interesting, isn't it? That's not the association I was expecting. Any myths about hyacinths? Hyacinths are often associated with spring and rebirth. The hyacinth flower is used in the half-seen table setting for the Persian New Year celebration, Nowruz, held at the spring equinox. The Persian word for hyacinth is, and then some Persian language text, and then Sonbol, although I expect that's probably not how it's pronounced. The name, and then we have Greek text. Hyacinthos was used in ancient Greece for at least 2 distinct plants, which have variously been identified as Scilla bifola or Orchis quadripunctata and Consolida ajaxis. Plants known by this name were sacred to Aphrodite. The hyacinth appears in the first sections of T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land, during a conversation between the narrator and the hyacinth girl that takes place in the spring. You gave me hyacinths first a year ago. They called me the hyacinth girl. Yet when we came back, late, from the hyacinth garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing, looking into the heart of the light, the silence. Right. No myth mentioned there about the flowers, the hyacinths specifically anyway, coming from Aphrodite's blood. Of course, it could be a different myth. It could be that this was a different flower that was being referred to in the earlier verses. I don't know. Or it may just be that the myth isn't listed there. Or it's possible that the verse which of her blood were born is just meant to be what's the word, allegorical as opposed to literal. Nice little poem though. Even if the theme, that of largely just praising Aphrodite, may seem a bit unoriginal, very well expressed. Nice imagery. Shows a great deal of imagination, I'd suggest. So, let's keep going. Spring Bereaved 1. And then we have the pleasure of Spring Bereaved 2 and Spring Bereaved 3. Which means we're probably shifting from one of the major themes of poetry throughout history, that of love, to the other major theme, death. Hold on, I just noticed Zephyr on the in the first verse. Let me double check. Was Zephyr a god of the wind and also one of the names of the wind? The west wind. A light wind from the west. Any light refreshing wind, a gentle breeze, anything of fine, soft or light quality, especially fabric. I swear they were also a god or demigod though. Let me check my physical dictionary quickly. Not many words beginning with Z, it would appear. Zephyr, the west wind personified. Yes, exactly. So not just... It could refer to just the west wind, as in the wind that comes from the west. But it could also refer to the personified version of said wind, which would be seen as something of a divine being, I would imagine. Balmy breeze, light wind. Or the second meaning, athlete's thin, gauzy jersey for running, rowing, boxing, etc. Kinds of dress material. Interesting. Well, that's consistent with it being used for anything that's particularly thin and light. So, where were we? Spring Bereaved 1. That Zephyr every year so soon was heard to sigh in forests here. It was for her that wrapped in gowns of green, meads were so early seen, that in the saddest months oft sung the merles. It was for her trees dropped forth pearls, that proud and stately courts did envy those our shades and calm resorts. It was for her, and she is gone, oh woe! Woodcut again do grow, but doth the rose and daisy winter done, but we, once dead, no more do see the sun. Oh, that's interesting. I noticed a note at the bottom of the page. Paramours equals singular paramour. Strange. What was it? There was something I was going to look up here. Merles. I'm pretty sure we looked up merles last week as well. But I'm going to double check. Blackbird. That was it. I'd forgotten. So I suppose the implication is that if nature did all these things for her, then presumably now that she's gone, it's going to be like an eternal winter, one would assume. Oh, that is such a beautiful set of verses. Now I think about it, that zephyr every year, so soon was heard to sigh in forests here, it was for her. So what they've done there is they've taken the idea of just a gentle wind, which, you know, is a pleasant thought, I would imagine, for most people. I think if you think of a gentle breeze, you probably think of a cooling breeze on a hot summer's day, and it's a very relaxing thought. They've taken that, personified it into the entity Zephyr, then referred to them sighing, which obviously is a reference to the wind itself blowing gently, and then bundled that all up and said it was all for her. Because of course a person might do something for another person, whereas it's hard to imagine just an inanimate force of nature doing something for any particular purpose. Such a cleverly romantic way of simultaneously getting across beautiful imagery, but also putting together the main conceit of the poem. That could have been written so much more clumsily, but it wasn't. I like that one a lot. So, we move on to Spring Bereaved 2. Sweet Spring, thou turnest with all thy goodly train, thy head with flames, thy mantle bright with flowers, the zephyrs curl the green locks of the plain, the clouds for joy and pearls weep down their showers. Thou turnest, sweet youth, but my pleasant hours and happy days with thee come not again. The sad memorials only of my pain do with thee turn, which turn my sweets in sours. Thou art the same which thou wast before, delicious, wanton, amiable, fair, but she whose breath embalmed thy wholesome air is gone, nor gold nor gems her can restore. Neglected virtue, seasons go and come, while thine forgot lie closed in a tomb. Interesting they refer to her breath embalming thy wholesome air. Does embalm have a meaning I'm not aware of? Because I would think of embalming as in preserving something using chemicals. Or, well, predominantly chemicals. Did I misspell that? Yes, I did. Embalm, not embalm. Yes, to preserve a body, to preserve, to perfume or add fragrance to something. Okay, that will be the meaning I was missing. But she whose breath embalmed thy wholesome air. Now that's an interesting verse. Both because it implies that her breath was itself beautifully fragrant, which, I mean, as human beings go, that seems dubious, but you can certainly imagine it as part of some idealised being. But also the sense of being so close to someone that you're aware of their breath in that way also suggests a degree of intimacy. But it's very subtly hinted at, as opposed to more overtly specified, as I suggest you'd be far more likely to find in most media today. I also think it's interesting how in the previous poem the previous poem discussed how all these things were done on her behalf and now she's gone, whereas here there's a suggestion that sweet spring will still come, but its amiable qualities are spoilt by her absence, that she did a great deal to augment the better qualities of spring. And now that she's gone, not only has spring been reduced, but it's also a sad reminder of happier days. I must say I like this one as well. So, Spring Bereaved 3. Let me check Lexis before we start. I thought Lexis meant the complete body of a complete body of words. How people often use the term vocabulary, but I think vocabulary in that sense is technically wrong. Linguistics, a set of all words and phrases in a language, and a unified subset of words from a particular language. Yes. Or the vocabulary used by a writer. How do they define vocabulary? A usually alphabetized and explained collection of words, e.g. of a particular field, the collection of words a person knows and uses, the stock of words used in a particular field, the words of a language collectively, lexis. Yes, I had heard that this technically is incorrect, although people will use it that way. Lexis is what you would use for the entire collection of words or phrases in a language, whereas vocabulary would be a particular subset that is used in a given context, if I recall correctly. That might be incorrect. But I do note... Oh, I'm such a fool. That doesn't say Alexis, that says Alexis, as in a name. Oh dear. What a fool I am. Alexis, a male given name from ancient Greek, a female given name from ancient Greek, transferred from the male name and used since the 1940s. Well, this would have been long before then. So it would have been a male name. So presumably Alexis is the person being addressed. Unless I was right the first time, and it does say Alexis, but that doesn't make sense. That doesn't flow. Oh well, I'll read through it and we'll see if it makes more sense. Alexis, here she stayed, among these pines, sweet hermitress, she did alone repair. Here did she spread the treasure of her hair, more rich than that brought from the Colchian mines. She set her by these musked elegantines. The happy place the prince seems yet to bear, a voice did sweeten here those sugared lines, to which winds, trees, beasts, birds did lend their ear. Me here she first perceived, and here a morn of bright carnations did o'erspread her face. Here did she sigh, here first my hopes were born, and I first got a pledge of promised grace. But ah, what served it to be happy so, sith passed pleasures double but new woe? Right, I still don't fully understand why it says Alexis, although I do note it says further on, her voice did sweeten here those sugared lines. So it's possible, if it does say Alexis, then that is the name of one of her lovers, and that is the person being addressed in this poem. But if that is the case, it raises the question why a specific named individual is being referred to like that. Because it's almost as if, when you read it, it's almost as if they're addressing you, except it's very unlikely the reader's name is actually Alexis. Makes me wonder if this could be a poem that was taken from a play or something like that, and in context it would have made more sense. Because it does seem very much as if it's one person speaking to another, giving them an explanation of several things. Right, what are the eglantines? A Eurasian rose. Rosa elegantaria, having prickly stems, fragrant leaves, pink flowers, and red hips. Interesting. That's one to look up. What was the other flower? Carnations. Where am I looking? I am looking here. I'm guessing... Oh, eglantine. Poetry. Ah. I did not know that. Interesting. Wonder if we can get a picture of one. Eglantine. There we go. Rather pretty, aren't they? And carnations, that was the other one. No carnations. Okay. I could try a text search. Hmm. There we go. Interesting. In some countries, the following mode of divination is resorted to. The lover, male or female, who wishes to ascertain the character of the beloved object, chooses or draws by lot one of the following flowers. The disposition of the individual in question will be found in the subjoined list at the number corresponding with that of the flower, which has either been chosen or allotted by chance. So carnation is 22. Capricious. Ooh. Yeah, I think we found the only references to carnation in that particular book. And that's a carnation. Wait, that's strange. I've only just noticed that the view of the book's gone down for you. I don't know why that happened. My apologies. I don't know how long you've been having that trouble. Oh well, nothing I can do now, sadly. Just have to keep an eye on that for the future. So, in case you didn't see it, what was it? Eglantine poetry. So let's give this one more read. Alexis, here she stayed, among these pines, sweet hermitress, she did alone repair. Here did she spread the treasure of her hair, more rich than that brought from the Colchian mines. She set her by these musket elegantines. Ah, I made too many mistakes, haven't I? I'll start once more. Alexis, here she stayed, among these pines, sweet hermitress, she did alone repair. Here did she spread the treasure of her hair, more rich than that brought from the Colchian mines. She set her by these musket eglantines, the happy place the prince seems yet to bear. Her voice did sweeten here those sugared lines, to which winds, trees, beasts, birds did lend their ear. Me here she first perceived, and here a morn of bright carnations did o'erspread her face. Here did she sigh, here first my hopes were born, and I first got a pledge of promised grace. But ah, what served it to be happy so? Sith passed pleasures double but new woe. Alright, what was Sith again? I know we've looked this up before. An instant in time, a point in time, or an occasion. Since, that'll be it. Since passed pleasures double but new woe. But ah, what served it to be happy so? Since passed pleasures double but new woe. Oh. Okay, so this is saying that pleasures that have passed cause twice the amount of woe. So essentially it was such a happy time with her, now I'm suffering even I'm suffering a greater amount than even the pleasure I had with her. But what served it to be happy so? I think that's saying, but what is the point in it being so happy? Since past pleasures double your woe. Yes, I could be wrong. I think it's essentially saying, what is the service rendered by making it so happy, since pleasures that have passed cause twice the woe, twice the pain. I must say, I thoroughly enjoyed this series of poems. The Spring Bereaved 1, 2 and 3. It is yet another poem that combines both of the two main themes we've seen in poetry throughout the ages, love and death. Combining the two together is also quite common. But my goodness, was it skillfully written. The conceits, the imagery. Just the elegance with which the ideas are transmitted and subtly implied, rather than proverbially rubbed in your face. Right, let's keep going, shall we? So now we move on to her passing, which I've just got this slight suspicion is also going to continue the two main themes of poetry. The beauty and the life of life's and beauty's fairest paragon, O tears, O grief, hung at a feeble thread, to which pale Atropos had set her knife. The soul with many a groan had left each outward part, and now did take his last leave of the heart. What else did want, save death, even to be dead? When the afflicted band about her bed, seeing so fair him come in lips, cheeks, eyes, cried, "Ah! And can death enter paradise?" Interesting. So I wonder if the and can death enter paradise is a reference to when they were together, they were in paradise with one another. And so the question as to can death enter paradise is confusion. If we were in paradise, then how can it be that you have just passed on? I think that's what's being suggested there. Right, who's Atropos? Without turn, in Greek mythology is one of the three Moirai, goddesses of fate and destiny. Her Roman equivalent was Morta. Atropos was the oldest of the three fates and was known as the Inflexible One. It was Atropos who chose the manner of death and ended the life of mortals by cutting their threads. She worked along with her two sisters, Clotho, who spun the thread, and Lachesis, who measured the length. Atropos has been featured in several stories, such as those of Atalanta and Achilles. Ah. Oh, that... Now I understand that. Those first three verses are that much more powerful. The beauty and the life of life's and beauty's fairest paragon, O tears, O grief, hung at a feeble thread, to which pale Atropos had set her knife. I mean, the tension there, the drama, out of verses that essentially are just stating that this individual is at the end of their life. The soul which many a groan had left each outward part, and now did take his last leave of the heart. Interesting. I wonder if that's a reference to the body being very pale and unresponsive, and then leaving the heart being analogous to brain death. Naught else did want save death, e'en to be dead. What does that mean? Naught else did want save death, even to be dead. When the afflicted band about her bed, seeing so fair him come in lips, cheeks, eyes, cried, ah, and can death enter paradise? Oh, it's so well put together, isn't it? And I know this isn't the only poem that we've seen where the lover that passes on is male. I do think that's the rarer way round to do it, and I appreciate the fact that they've done it that way round. For novelty's sake. Like I say, it's not even the first poem we've read where it's been done that way round, but I think we've read a lot more poems, off the top of my head I think we have, where it's the woman that passes on first. So what does that verse mean? Naught else did want. So they didn't want anything else, save death, except for death, even to be dead. Ah, hold on. If it said not else did want, not even to be dead, that would mean they didn't want anything, including that they didn't want to be dead. But it doesn't say not even, it says even to be dead. So although that's not an expression that I don't think we use that today. I think we use not even, but I don't think we would use even in that way. I would suggest that it would have the opposite meaning. It would mean, I'd suggest that not else did want even to be dead means they wanted nothing other than to be dead. But then why also say save death? I feel like there's something more complex going on there that's going over my head that I just can't quite pass, which is a shame. Anyway, let's keep going. Inexorable. What does that mean, inexorable? What does it mean to exor? Does that mean can't be comforted? Impossible to prevent or stop, inevitable. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Unable to be persuaded, relentless, unrelenting. Adamant, severe. Okay. So, inexorable. My thoughts hold mortal strife. I do detest my life, and with lamenting cries, peace to my soul to bring, oft call that prince which here doth monarchize. But he, grim grinning king, who caitiffs scorns and doth the blessed surprise, late having decked with beauty's rose his tomb, disdains to crop a weed and will not come. Alright, what does caitiff mean? A base or despicable person, a wretch. Obsolete, a captive or prisoner, particularly a galley slave. Archaic, a villain or coward or wretch. As adjective, especially despicable, cowardly. Oh, Anglo-Norman captive. Ooh, that's a little concerning. When you think about the implications of that word gaining that meaning. So, my thoughts hold mortal strife. Right, what's mortal strife as opposed to other types of strife? I suppose it refers to things which relate to our transient existence upon the world, as opposed to things that might bother our mortal soul. Sorry, our immortal soul. So, theological concerns would not be mortal strife, presumably. Feeding yourself would be. I do detest my life, and with lamenting cries, peace to my soul to bring. Oft call that prince which here doth monarchize. So, I wonder who that prince which here doth monarchize refer to. Does that refer to an actual monarch on Earth? Presumably, because I can't imagine they'd be willing to speak poorly of Jesus or God in this era. But if that's the case, why are they calling out to the ruler of a state when they're lamenting? Could this be because they blame them? But he, grim grinning king, who caitiff scorns, and doth the blessed surprise, late having decked with beauty's rose his tomb. Well, if he has a tomb, then that strengthens the argument that this is immortal. Disdains to crop a weed, and will not come. Disdains to crop a weed. Ah, is that a reference to the speaker being executed? So he looks down on me so much that he won't even have me executed. Although I feel like this raises more questions than it answers. What is this individual's circumstances such that he would be begging the king for execution? And what is this reference to late having decked with beauty's rose his tomb? I can only assume they don't mean a literal rose into his literal tomb. I feel like there's context there I'm very much missing. Let me very quickly look up William Drummond and see if there's anything here that might shed some light on this. Drummond's first publication appeared in 1613, an elegy on the death of Henry, Prince of Wales, called Tears on the Death of the Meliads. The poem shows the influence of Spenser and Sidney's pastoralism. In the same year he published an anthology of the elegies of Chapman, Wither and others, entitled Mausoleum, or the choicest flowers of the epitaphs. In 1616, the year of Shakespeare's death, appeared poems Amorous, Funeral, Divine, Pastoral. Yep, none of that really narrows things down. When Lord Balmerino was put on trial for the capital offence of retaining in his possession a petition regarded as a libel against the king, Drummond in an energetic letter urged the injustice and folly of the proceedings. About this time, a claim by the Earl of Metieff to the earldom of Strathearn, which was based on the assertion that King Robert III, husband of Annabella Drummond, was illegitimate, roused the poet's pride of blood and prompted him to prepare an historical defence of his house. His later works may be described briefly as royalist pamphlets, written with more or less caution as the times required. Drummond took the part of Montrose, and a letter from the royalist leader in 1646 acknowledged his services. He also wrote a pamphlet of vindication of the Hamiltons, supporting the claims of the Duke of Hamilton to lead the Scottish army which was to release Charles I. It is said that Drummond's health received a severe shock when news was brought of the king's execution. In which case, the only possible figure that could be being referred to here that would make sense would be Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell. But then why is it entitled Her Passing? Obviously he wasn't actually a king, but I very well imagine that that would have been a term that his detractors would have used for him. His critics. Since it's entitled Her... Oh wait, no, it wasn't Her Passing, that was the previous one. I do apologise. It was Inexorable. Inexorable, which means unrelenting. My thoughts hold mortal strife. I do detest my life, and with lamenting cries, peace to my soul to bring, of to call that prince which here doth monarchize. But he, grim grinning king, who captive scorns and doth the blessed surprise, like having decked with beauty's rose his tomb, disdains to crop a weed, and will not come. As Drummond preferred high church Episcopalianism to Presbyterianism, and was an extremely loyal subject, he supported King Charles's policy of spreading Laudianism, though he protested against some of the methods employed to enforce it. When Lord Balmerino was put on trial for the capital offence of retaining in his possession a petition regarded as a libel against the king, Drummond in an energetic letter urged the injustice and folly of the proceedings. None of that really figures. Did Cromwell... Hold on. When did he die? 1649. I'm not actually... Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Cromwell hadn't even taken over by then. When did he actually take over? In office, not till 16... Oh, sorry. Member of Parliament for Cambridge from 1640. Lord Protector from 1653. So he would have been a known quantity by the time of William Drummond's death. But he clearly didn't have absolute power by then. Right, when was Charles I executed? Same year as his death. So unless this poem was written the same year as William Drummond's death, it seems unlikely. Cromwell married Elizabeth Boucher, who died in 1665, so that doesn't figure. Okay, so it wouldn't... We know that William Drummond was very religious, so he wouldn't have been criticising... he wouldn't have been criticising God. We know that he was a royalist, so it seems like very unlikely he would have been criticising the royal family. And there really isn't enough information here to suppose that this is a protest poem against William Cromwell. The dates just don't add up. So I must admit, I don't fully follow this one. I mean, I recognise the skill in its writing. But I feel like whatever historical cultural events it's alluding to, I just don't have the context for, unfortunately. So once more, my thoughts hold mortal strife. I do detest my life, and with lamenting cries, peace to my soul to bring, oft call that prince which here doth monarchize. But he, grim grinning king, who caitiff scorns and doth the blessed surprise, late having decked with beauty's rose tomb, disdains to crop a weed and will not come. Nope. It is nice for what it is, but I just don't have the context. Right, so the next one is change should breed change. New doth the sun appear, the mountain snows decay, crowned with frail flowers forth comes the baby year. My soul, time posts away, and though yet in that frost, which flower and fruit have lost, as if all here immortal were, dost stay. For shame, thy powers awake, look to that heaven which never night makes black, and there at that immortal sun's bright rays, deck they with flowers which fear not rage of days. Interesting. Okay, I think I understand it. So we start with new doth the sun appear, the mountain snows decay, crowned with frail flowers forth comes the baby year. So we have the idea that this is a new year, which implies... well, it implies change, doesn't it? In the sense of a new dawn, a new beginning, New Year's resolutions. It suggests that we're at the start of something. And the sun and the snow melting on the mountains, this all... obviously the sun is radiant, it's seen as a good thing, it's warming, almost jolly. The snow is cold, but the sun's rays are causing it to melt. So we have some evocative imagery here, and we also have the sense that as part of this new beginning, something good is happening. My soul time posts away, and though yet in that frost, which flower and fruit have lost, as if all here immortal were, doth stay. So I'm not entirely sure what my soul time posts away means. It's the posts part of that I don't think I'm getting. The rest of it makes sense. I think it's talking about the fact that fruit and flowers have been lost in the frost. Lost in the sense of they seem to have passed on, and yet, as though they were immortal, they stay. Which is to say that once spring comes, they grow again. They've been lost to the frost, but they're not gone forever. Right. Post. To hang a notice in a conspicuous manner for general review. To hold up public blame or reproach. To advertise opprobriously. To announce by public proclamation. To carry an account from the journal to the ledger. To inform, to give news to make acquainted with details of a subject, often with up. To pay down the stake. Right. My soul time posts away. No, I still can't follow that. Let me check my physical dictionary. Post. Travel with relays of horses. Travel with haste. Hurry. Of course. Put letter etc. into a post office or letter box for transmission. Carry entry from auxiliary book to more formal one, especially from daybooks or journal to ledger. Oh, also place where soldier is stationed, or of course the stationing of someone there. Place occupied for purposes of trade. Commission as officer in command of vessel of 20 guns or more. Interesting. I wonder if my soul time posts away could be a reference to the different stages of life coming in, hurrying from one to the next. I could be wrong, but that's my best theory. Ah yes, Wiktionary does have other definitions further down. So to travel with relays of horses, to travel by post horses, originally as a carrier, to travel quickly, to hurry. To send an item of mail through the postal services. To rise and sink in the saddle in accordance with the motion of the horse, especially in trotting. Oh, from 19th century, so it wouldn't be that. To enter a name on a list, as for service, promotion, etc. To assign to a station, to set to place. Yes, I think it's fair to say that the most likely definition of those we've looked at for post, in the context of time posts away, is that it's a relay that it's implying here, from one stage of life to the next, but I could be wrong. Anyway, where was I? For shame, thy powers awake. look to that heaven which never night makes black. So, that the immortal heaven, the heaven where God rules supreme. And there, at that immortal sun's bright rays, which presumably is a reference to God, deck thee with flowers which fear not rage of days. Because of course we had this earlier imagery about the flowers being lost under frost and apparently dying, but then coming back. And I suppose the idea here is that when facing God in heaven, one should deck oneself with flowers which are equally contemptuous of time. It does raise the question, what is actually being got at here? What is the central thesis of this poem? My best guess is that it's a reference to living a good life, and that the good qualities of your virtues will act much like flowers act through winter and spring. That no matter how much time has passed, if you're virtuous, then you will be seen in a positive light, and those virtues will never truly leave you. Could be wrong. That's just the best explanation I can think of. If you have another theory, then please leave a comment. I'd love to discuss it. Right, St. John Baptist, the last and greatest herald of heaven's king, girt with rough skins, pies to the deserts wild, among that savage brood the woods forth bring, which heathen man more harmless found and mild, his food was locusts, and what young doves spring, with honey that from virgin hives distilled. Parched body, hollowed eyes, some uncouth thing, made him appear, long since from earth exiled. There burst he forth, all ye, whose hopes rely on God, with me amidst these deserts mourn. Repent, repent, and from old errors turn. Who listened to his voice, obeyed his cry. Only the echoes, which he made relent, wrung from their marble caves. Repent, repent. Right, this is also... this poem obviously has a strong religious theme, which makes me more confident of my interpretation of the original one. Not the original one, the previous poem. Though of course I still can't be sure. Interesting. I do wonder what's being got at here. Again, a lot of it seems biographical, not autobiographical. See, this wasn't written by St. John the Baptist. A lot of this seems biographical, up until we get to who listened to his voice, obeyed his cry. Only the echoes which he made relent, wrung from their marble caves, repent, repent. Beautifully written. I'm not quite sure what the underlying point is, though. You have this idea of this hermit out on his own, screaming into a cave, and the only thing that answers back is his echo. Now it's very interesting, this imagery of him making the echoes themselves relent. Presumably with his righteousness. But it doesn't exactly portray him in a dignified fashion, does it? So I'm not quite... I feel like this probably has some allegorical meaning, which is going over my head. Still, let's keep going. So we move on to Giles Fletcher. How many of his poems do we have? One. So probably not worth going into a vast amount of detail about his life. Oh, then again, the entire Wikipedia article is not particularly long. Giles Fletcher was an English cleric and poet chiefly known for his long allegorical poems Christ's Victory and Triumph. Are either of those the one we're looking at now? No. Fletcher was the youngest son of Giles Fletcher the Elder, ambassador to Russia of Elizabeth I and brother to Bishop Richard Fletcher of London, chaplain to Queen Elizabeth I, and the brother of poet Phineas Fletcher and cousin of the dramatist John Fletcher. Are these both people who have also featured in the Oxford Book of English Verse so far? I ask because I notice that we've been to both those pages already. Both those pages on Wikipedia. Indeed, we did look at John Fletcher, and we also looked at Phineas Fletcher. Specifically, we looked at John Fletcher, then John Webster, William Alexander, Earl of Stirling, Phineas Fletcher, Sir John Beaumont, William Drummond of Hawthornden, and now Giles Fletcher. Interesting. So he was brother of Phineas Fletcher and cousin of John Fletcher. Educated at Westminster School and Trinity College, Cambridge, he remained in Cambridge after his ordination, becoming reader in Greek grammar in 1615 and reader in Greek language in 1518. I said 15 when I meant 16, didn't I? So reader in Greek grammar in 1615 and reader in Greek language in 1618. In 1619, left to become rector of Alderton and Suffolk, Fletcher enjoyed the patronage of the Puritan philanthropist Anne Townsend at or before 1623. His principal work has the full title Christ's Victory and Triumph in Heaven and Earth over and after death, and consists of 4 cantos. The first canto, Christ's Victory in Heaven, represents a dispute in heaven between justice and mercy, using the facts of Christ's life on earth. The second, Christ's Victory on Earth, deals with an allegorical account of Christ's temptation. The third, Christ's Triumph over Death, covers the Passion, and the fourth, Christ's Triumph after Death, covering the Resurrection and Ascension, ends with an affectionate eulogy of his brother Phineas as Thyresilus, I think. The metre is an 8-line stanza in the style of Spenser. The first 5 lines have the rhyme scheme A-B, A-B-B, and the stanza concludes with a rhyming triplet. Milton borrowed liberally from Christ's Victory and Triumph in Paradise Regained. Interesting. The canto is a principal form of division in medieval and modern long poetry. The word canto is derived from the Italian word for song or singing, which comes from the Latin cantus song, from the infinitive verb canere, to sing. In Old Saxon poetry, Old English poetry, and Middle English poetry, the term fit was sometimes used to denote a section of long narrative poem, and that term is sometimes used in modern scholarship of this material instead of canto. The use of the canto was described in the 1911 edition of the Encyclopaedia Britannica as a convenient division when poetry was more usually sung by the minstrel to his own accompaniment than read. There is no specific format, construction or style for a canto, and it is not limited to any one type of poetry. The typical length of a canto varies greatly from one poem to another. The average canto in the Divine Comedy is 142 lines long, while the average canto in Os Luciadas is 882 lines long. Interesting. Anyway, that's who Giles Fletcher was, and also what a canto is. So, Giles Fletcher, wooing song. Love is the blossom where there blows everything that lives or grows. Love doth make the heavens to move, and the sun doth burn in love. Love the strong and weak doth yoke, and makes the ivy climb the oak, under whose shadows lions wild, softened by love, grow tame and mild. Love no medicine can appease, he burns the fishes in the seas, nor all the skill his wounds can stench, nor all the sea his fire can quench. Love did make the bloody spear once a leathern coat to wear, while in his leaves there shrouded lay sweet birds for love that sing and play, and all love's joyful flame, I the bud and blossom am. Only bend thy knee to me, thy wooing shall thy winning be. See, see the flowers that below, now as fresh as morning blow, and of all the virgin rose, that as bright aurora shows, how they all unleaved die, losing their virginity, like unto a summer's shade, but now born, and now they fade. Everything doth pass away, there is danger and delay. Come, come, gather then the rose, gather it, or it you lose. All the sand of Tagus shore into my bosom cast his all, all the valley's swimming corn to my house is yearly born. Every grape of every vine is gladly bruised to make me wine, while 10,000 kings as proud to carry up my train have bowed, and a world of ladies send me in my chambers to attend me. All the stars in heaven that shine, and 10,000 more are mine. Only bend thy knee to me, thy wooing shall thy winning be. Okay, so from the top, what do we have? Love is the blossom where there blows everything that lives or grows. So, love is great. Love does make the heavens to move, and the sun doth burn in love. So now we're linking love to holiness, I think. Love the strong and weak doth yoke. And makes the ivy climb the oak. Love the strong and weak doth yoke. So it's not just the weak that are yoked by love, but also the strong, and makes the ivy climb the oak. Okay, that's some clever imagery there, clever conceit. Because of course, ivy is a parasitic plant, and it's actually climbing the oak for very much its own selfish interests. But the idea that it's clinging to it and climbing it because it loves it so much is novel. Well, so far as I'm aware anyway. Under whose shadows lions wild, softened by love, grow tame and mild. Love no medicine can appease, he burns the fishes in the seas. I don't know what burning the fishes in the seas is a reference to, or why it's being equated to love, but there we go. Not all the skill his wounds can stench, not all the sea his fire can quench. Right, what does stench mean in that sense? As a verb. To cause to emit a disagreeable odour, to cause to stink. That makes sense. Not all the skill his wounds can stench. Not all the skill his wounds can stench. Strange. Oh, or stanch. What's stanch? Adjective, adverb, verb. To stop the flow of. To check or stop or deter. To extinguish or put out. Of bleeding, to stop. Okay. As in staunch the wound, presumably. Yes, archaic spelling of staunch. Okay. Not all the skill his wounds can stench. So all that presumably means all the skill in the world. Not all the skill in the world can stop the bleeding of his wounds. Not all the sea can quench his fire. Loved to make the bloody spear, once a levy coat to wear. Right, what's a levy coat or levy coat? Okay, no help there. Let's try just levy. Archaic form of leafy. Okay. Loved to make the bloody spear, once a leafy coat to wear. Or in his leaves, okay, so it is leaves. While in his leaves there shrouded lay sweet birds for love that sing and play, and of all love's joyful flame, I the bud and blossom am. That's some beautiful imagery. I wonder if the bloody spear is actually a very specific reference though. I mean, one wonders if the bloody spear might, for example, have at one point been a reference to the spear that pierced Jesus on the cross and then had some sort of specific connotation which is now lost on me. Because, I mean, we can all picture a spear that has blood on it, but I do wonder if that's something more specific. Only bend thy knee to me, thy wooing shall thy winning be. Why would the bloody spear have a leafy coat to wear? And who is the speaker here? Only bend thy knee to me, thy wooing shall thy winning be. I could understand if that was a directive to bow to a personification of love itself, and then love itself will make your wooing succeed. See the flowers that blow, now as fresh as morning blow. Blow here meaning to open their blossoms. And of all the virgin rose that as bright Aurora shows. Aurora, we looked this up last week, she was the Greek god of the sunrise, was she not? The Roman goddess of dawn, indeed. How they all unleavened die, losing their virginity, like unto a summer shade. But now born, and now they fade. Everything doth pass away, there is danger and delay. Come, come, gather then the rose, gather it, or it you lose. All the sand of Tagus' shore is Tagus. The Tagus is the longest river in the Iberian Peninsula. The river rises in the Montes Universales near Teruel in mid-eastern Spain. Flows 1,007 kilometers, generally westward, with two main southwest sections, and then empties into the Atlantic Ocean in Lisbon. The river's Latin name is Tagus, While the etymology is unclear, the most probable etymological origin for the hydronym tagus is Indo-European, tag, to drip. It is known under different names in the languages of Iberia: Basque, Tajo, Catalan, Tajo, Galician, Rio Texo, or Teco, Mirandese, Rio Tejo, Portuguese Tejo, Spanish Tajo. It is known in Italian as Tago and Greek as Tagos. A major river, the Tagus, is brought to mind in the songs and stories of the Portuguese. A popular fado song in Lisbon notes it: while people get older, the Tagus remains young. My hair getting white, the Tagus is always young. The author Fernando Pessoa wrote a poem that begins, "The Tagus is more beautiful than the river that flows through my village, but the Tagus is not more beautiful than the river that flows through my village." Aha. Richard Crashaw died 1649, wrote a poem, Saint Mary Magdalene or the Weeper. This refers to the golden Tagus as wanting Mary Magdalene's silver tears. In classical poetry, the Tagus was famous for its gold-bearing sands. The catalogue works of Catullus, Ovid's juvenile satires and others. For its gold-bearing sands. Interesting. I wonder what the connotations of that were then. That it was a very opulent river? Or something else entirely? Right, so where were we? All the sand of Tagus' shore into my bosom casts his oar. So there's gold in their bosom, I take it. All the valleys swim in corn, to my house is yearly born. Every grape of every vine is gladly bruised to make me wine. While 10,000 kings as proud to carry up my train have bowed, and a world of ladies send me in my chambers to attend me. All the stars in heaven that shine, and 10,000 more are mine. Only bend thy knee to me, thy wooing shall thy winning be. Interesting. So the first reference I think we get to the first person, unless I'm very much mistaken, is here. And of all love's joyful flame, I the bud and blossom am. So perhaps then this poem is written from the perspective of a personification of infatuation, the very beginnings of love. That would make sense. And I must say, if that's the case, then this was a very original piece of work. That is a very subtle a very subtle point of what's the word I'm looking for? A very subtle point of distinction. Oh, I get it. Love no medicine can appease. Love, comma, not that they've written a comma. No medicine can appease. So you can't take a medicine to get rid of love. He burns the fishes in the seas. This is a... I feel like there is something more going on with that. This particular example they've given. I feel like something about burning fish in the sea must be a reference to something. But in general, it's just something bad. And the idea is that this bad thing's going to happen no matter what. You can't stop it. Because it's love that's doing it. Not all the skill, his wounds can stench. But here, his wounds isn't referring to the wounds that love itself possesses. Sorry, possesses. That's what I meant to say. These aren't the wounds that love itself possesses, but the wounds love has caused. Not all the skill in the world can stench the wounds love has caused. Not all the sea his fire can quench, the fire of love. So this bit makes more sense now. Except with the one caveat, the line he burns the fishes in the seas. As I say, that must be referring to something that has just gone over my head. Anyway. Unless this is just the implication that even fishes feel love, and they're, and just as you might describe love as a flame, the suggestion here is that the fishes in the seas are, aflame with romantic passion. In which case the idea of burning the fishes in the seas has been deliberately chosen because it seems almost like a contradiction. How can you burn something that is constantly surrounded by water? Anyway, that's my best theory as to this. Few unanswered questions about this one that I'd like to know, but in general, very good, I would say. And then we move on to Francis Beaumont on the tombs in Westminster Abbey. Right, who was John Beaumont then? Well, it's not going to be this John Beaumont, first Viscount Beaumont, because he died in 1460. Won't be that one either. We don't have a date for that one. Why is there no disambiguation page? That would help a lot. This one's possible. And apparently we've already been on this page at some point. So John Beaumont of Grace Dew in the parish of Belton in Leicestershire, England, was a poet best known for his work Bosworth Field, a poem about the Battle of Bosworth Field. Why have we been on this page before? Did he occur earlier in the anthology, or in the anthology we were looking at before? I looked up the wrong one, didn't I? I looked up Sir John Beaumont, who we were reading from directly before we read William Drummond's work, I was looking for Francis Beaumont. That's why it says Francis Beaumont up there. So that's entirely on me. Right. Francis Beaumont was a dramatist in English Renaissance theatre, most famous for his collaborations with John Fletcher. I guess we'll read the section on his life, but probably not the one on his plays. Beaumont was the son of Sir Francis Beaumont of Grace Dew, near Thringstone in Leicestershire, a Justice of the Common Pleas. His mother was Anne, the daughter of Sir George Pierrepont of Home Pierrepont, and his wife Winifred Thwaites. Beaumont was born at the family seat and was educated at Broadgate Hall, now Pembroke College, Oxford, at age 13. Following the death of his father in 1598, he left university without a degree and followed in his father's footsteps by entering the Inner Temple in London in 1600. Accounts suggest that Beaumont did not work long as a lawyer. He became a student of poet and playwright Ben Jonson. He was also acquainted with Michael Drayton and other poets and dramatists, and decided that was where his passion lay. His first work, Salmacis and Hermaphroditus, appeared in 1602. The 1911 edition of the Encyclopaedia Britannica describes that work as not on the whole discreditable to a lad of 18, fresh from the popular love poems of Marlowe and Shakespeare, which it naturally exceeds in long-winded and fantastic diffusions of episodes and conceits. In 1605, Beaumont wrote commendatory verses to Johnson's Volpone. Beaumont's collaboration with Fletcher may have begun as early as 1605. They had both hit an obstacle early in their dramatic careers with notable failures. Beaumont's The Knights of the Burning Pestle, first performed by the Children of the Blackfriars in 1607, was rejected by an audience who, the published epistle to the 1613 quarto claims, failed to note the privy mark of irony about it. That is, they took Beaumont's satire of old-fashioned drama as an old-fashioned drama. The play received a lukewarm reception. The following year, Fletcher's Faithful Shepherdess failed on the same stage. In 1609, however, the two collaborated on Philaster, which was performed by the King's Men at the Globe Theatre and at Blackfriars. The play was a popular success, not only launching the careers of the two playwrights, but also sparking a new taste for tragicomedy. According to a mid-century anecdote related by John Aubrey, they lived in the same house on the Bankside in Southwark, sharing everything in the closest intimacy. About 1613, Beaumont married Ursula Isley, daughter and co-heiress of Henry Isley of Sundridge in Kent, by whom he had two daughters, Elizabeth and Frances, a posthumous child. Oh dear. He had a stroke between February and October 1613, after which he wrote no more plays, but was able to write an elegy for Lady Penelope Clifton, who died the 26th of October 1613. Beaumont died in 1616 and was buried in Westminster Abbey. Although today Beaumont is remembered as a dramatist, during his lifetime he was also celebrated as a poet. So, interesting that the poem is entitled On the Tombs in Westminster Abbey, and that is in fact where he was buried. So, on the tombs in Westminster Abbey. Mortality, behold and fear, what a change of flesh is here. Think how many royal bones sleep within this heap of stones. Here they lie, had realms and lands, who now want strength to stir their hands, where from their pulpits sealed with dust they preach, in greatness is no trust. Here's an acre sown indeed, with the richest royalist seed, that the earth did e'er suck in, since the first man died for sin. Here the bones of birth have cried, though gods they were, as men they died. Here are sands ignoble things, dropped from the ruined sides of kings. Here's a world of pomp and state, buried in dust, once dead by fate. Goodness. I think this is a theme that we've encountered a few times in poems we've read. The futility of placing much stock in power and wealth, as it relates only to the world of the living, and that no matter who you are, you will pass on, and then it will do you no good whatsoever. I suppose in that sense these poems preach humility. I do think I particularly liked the verses. Here they lie, had realms and lands, who now want strength to stir their hands. That seemed particularly poignant. Anyway, we best keep going. Now we move on to John Ford. And if you'll bear with me 1 second. American film director and naval officer. I don't think that's who we're looking for. This will almost certainly be who we're looking for. Ooh, I like the owl. And that looks like a greyhound. Yeah, just 1 second. Right, where were we? John Ford was an English playwright and poet of the Jacobean and Caroline eras, born in Islington in Devon, England. His plays deal mainly with the conflict between passion and conscience. Although remembered primarily as a playwright, he also wrote a number of poems on the themes of love and morality. Right, I know when the Jacobean era was. When was the Caroline era? English literature is literature written in the English language. Well, of course. What I want to know is Caroline. Which there is no explanation for. Huh. And Jacobean links to the exact same page. Huh. Anyway. John Ford was baptised 17th of April 1586 at Islington Church, Devon. Just a second. It looks like the stream may have gone down. I think it's back up, so far as I can tell. I do seem to have internet, so I'll carry on. John Ford was baptised 17th of April 1586 at Islington Church, Devon. He was the second son of Thomas Ford of Backtor in the parish of Islington, and his wife Elizabeth Popham, died 1629, of the Popham family of Huntsworth in Somerset. A monument exists in Islington Church. Thomas Ford's grandfather was John Ford, died 1538, of Ashburton, the son and heir of William Ford of Cragford, who purchased the estate of Bragtor in the parish of Islington, which his male heirs successively made their seat. The Elizabethan mansion of the Ford survives today at Bagtor at the service wing of a later house appended in about 1700. Is it worth reading this? We may as well. Ford left home to study in London, although more specific details are unclear. A 16-year-old John Ford of Devon was admitted to Exeter College, Oxford, on the 26th of March 1601, but this was when the dramatist had not yet reached his 16th birthday. He joined an institution that was a prestigious law school, but also a centre of literary and dramatic activity, the Middle Temple. A prominent junior member in 1601 was the playwright John Marston. It is unknown whether Ford ever actually studied law while a resident of the Middle Temple, or whether he was strictly a gentleman boarder, which was a common arrangement at the time. It was not until 1606 that Ford wrote his first works for publication. In the spring of that year he was expelled from Middle Temple due to his financial problems, and fame's Memorial and Honour Triumphant soon followed. Both works are clear bids for patronage. Fame's Memorial is an elegy of 1,169 lines on the recently deceased Charles Blount, 1st Earl of Devonshire, while Honour Triumphant is a prose pamphlet, a verbal fantasia written in connection with the joust planned for the summer of 1606 visit of King Christian IV of Denmark. It is unknown whether either of these brought any financial remuneration to Ford, yet by June 1608 he had enough money to be readmitted to the Middle Temple. Prior to the start of his career as a playwright, Ford wrote other non-dramatic literary works, the long religious poem Christ's Bloody Sweat, and the two prose essays published as pamphlets, The Golden Mean and A Line of Life. After 1620, he began active dramatic writing, first as a collaborator with more experienced playwrights, primarily Thomas Dekker, but also John Webster and William Rowley, and by the later 1620s as a solo artist. Ford is best known for the tragedy "'Tis Pity She's a Whore", 1633, a family drama with a plotline of incest. The play's title has often been changed in new production, sometimes being referred to as simply Giovanni and Annabella. The play's leading incestuous brother and sister characters in the 19th century work... sister characters. In a 19th century work, it is coyly called The Brother and Sister. Shocking as the play is, it is still widely regarded as a classic piece of English drama. It's been adapted to film at least twice: My Sister, My Love, Sweden 1966, and "'Tis a Pity She's a Whore", Belgium 1678. He was a major playwright during the reign of Charles I. His plays deal with conflicts between individual passion and conscience and the laws and morals of society at large. Ford had a strong interest in abnormal psychology that is expressed through his dramas. His plays often show the influence of John Burton's The Anatomy of Melancholy. While virtually nothing is known of Ford's personal life, one reference suggests that his interest in melancholia may have been more than merely intellectual. The volume Choice Drolleries asserts that deep in a dump alone John Ford was gat, with folded arms and melancholy hat. And the poem is entitled Dawn. So, fly hence, shadows that do keep watchful sorrows charmed in sleep. Though the eyes be overtaken, yet the heart doth ever waken. Thoughts chained up in busy snares of continual woes and cares. Love and griefs are so expressed as they rather sigh than rest. Fly hence, shadows that do keep watchful sorrows charmed in sleep. Right, so we have repeated fly hence, shadows that do keep watchful sorrows charmed in sleep. I'm not sure I fully follow that, because that sounds like they're asking for something that keep sorrows at bay when we're trying to sleep, to leave. Though the eyes be overtaken, yet the heart doth ever waken. Thoughts chained up in busy snares of continual woes and cares. Love and griefs are so expressed, as they rather sigh than rest. Fly hence, shadows that do keep watchful sorrows charmed in sleep. Ooh, when it says fly hence, could that mean come to me? Is that possible? From here, from this place, away, so it couldn't. Fly hence, shadows that do keep watchful sorrows charmed in sleep. Though the eyes be overtaken, yet the heart doth ever waken. Thoughts chained up in busy snares of continual woes and cares. Love and griefs are so expressed, as they rather sigh than rest. Fly hence, shadows that do keep watchful sorrows charmed in sleep. Could it be charmed that I'm misinterpreting? To seduce, persuade or fascinate someone or something, use a magical charm upon to subdue, control or summon by incantation or supernatural influence, protect with or make invulnerable by spells, charms or supernatural influences. She led a charmed life. Okay. To subdue or overcome by some secret power, by that which gives pleasure to a lady sooth. So this would make sense if they were using charmed here to refer to protecting something. So if these are shadows that are keeping sorrows safe while one is asleep, or trying to get to sleep. But the problem is, charm can also mean to subdue something. And if it could mean one of two opposites, that doesn't really help us, does it? Checking my physical dictionary. Charm, bewitch, influenced by magic. Endow with magic power. Give pleasure to. I shall be charmed as polite formula. That's an odd expression. Yep, that's all they have. So I wonder if shadows could be a reference not just to literal shadows, but also to some supernatural being, like a what's it called? Spectre. And if the idea here is that these spectres are keeping are endowing magical powers to the sorrow, which allows them to overcome sleep. That's the only way this makes sense to me, because otherwise he's pleading for something that's very much contrary to his interests, which seems strange. Fly hence, shadows that do keep watchful sorrows charmed in sleep. Though the eyes be overtaken, yet the heart doth ever waken. Thoughts chained up in busy snares of continual woes and cares. Love and griefs are so expressed, as they rather sigh than rest. Fly hence, shadows that do keep watchful sorrows charmed in sleep. Right, looking at the time, I think we'll move on now to the riddles. I assume 161. Wait, have I read that right? No, 156. I remember I misread the numbers last time. Yeah, so I assume 156 must have been the last riddle we looked at. In vain we stretch our thoughts to find... Hold on. That's better. In vain we stretch our thoughts to find subjects to puzzle humankind, when common objects seem to me enigmas past discovery. Within my body, small as 'tis, like many curious mysteries, few can my genial atoms trace, or ken the progress of my race. Though numerous beings owe to me themselves and their posterity, of different size and colour too, chameleon-like, of every hue, brown, speckled, yellow, black or blue. What's yet more strange can make appear, I ramble almost everywhere, on earth in air, at random play, and o'er the boundless ocean stray. Though seen by thousands every day, of old a valuable guest, sat uppermost at every feast, from whence a proverb I became, for ever shall I preserve my name. Some ancient learned mistake tell, I represent the world so well, no livelier symbol can be shown of its duration than my own. Within my body's central heat is fixed my ruin to complete, with different strata covered o'er, which must in time the whole devour. We have read this before. I think I may have forgotten the solution though. What was it? Brown, speckled, yellow, black or blue? I remember that was a large clue. Eggs, I think. I think it may have been the eggs of birds. In vain we stretch our thoughts to find subjects to puzzle humankind, when common objects seem to me enigmas past discovery. Within my body, small as 'tis, like many curious mysteries, few can my genial atoms trace, or ken the progress of my race, though numerous beings owe to me themselves and their posterity, of different size and colour too, chameleon-like, of every hue, brown, speckled, yellow, black or blue. What's yet more strange can make it appear, I ramble almost everywhere, on earth, in air, at random play, and over the boundless ocean stray, though seen by thousands every day. Of old a valuable guest, sat uppermost at every feast, from whence a proverb I became, for ever shall preserve my name. Some ancient learned mistake tell, I represent the world so well, no livelier symbol can be shown of its duration than my own. Within my body's central heat is fixed my ruin to complete, with different strata covered over, which must in time the whole devour. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we read that last time and the solution was an egg. What were we up to? 156, if I recall correctly. Eggs. Indeed. Right, so we move on to a riddle we haven't seen yet. 157. Firm to our post, a numerous band, in martial order ranged we stand, still ready upon every call, with fury on the foe to fall. A subtle foe that here and there, in parties rambles everywhere, ever spoiling and defacing what they chance to find a place in, ever lurking where they light, till raised by us and put to fight. But, O ye powers, of you we crave that aid the generous and brave, when we the injured wound redress, and secure innocent distress. When with oppressors vile we strive, and would them from their shelter drive, grant us a dry and open field, for should we summon them to yield, in bogs and marshes still secure, they mocked our vengeance and defy our power. Oh, Jenny says so many colours, a rainbow. This is tricky. Eggs have so many varieties in terms of shape, sizes, colours. Yes, but that's exactly what the poem said. Of different size and colour too, chameleon-like of every hue, brown, speckled, yellow, black or blue. I think speckled was probably the biggest clue there. Since a speckled coloration isn't all that common. Anyway. So, firm our post, a numerous band in martial order, ranged we stand. Still ready upon every call, with fury on the foe to fall. A subtle foe that here and there in parties rambles everywhere, ever spoiling and defacing what they chance to find a place in, ever lurking where they light, till raised by us and put to flight. But O ye powers, of ye we crave that aid the generous and brave, when we the injured would redress, and secure innocent distress, when with oppressors vile we strive, and would them from their shelter drive, grant us a dry and open field, for should we summon them to yield, in bogs and marshes still secure, they mock our vengeance and defy our power. Interesting. So this is something that... well, it refers to a numerous band in martial order, ranged we stand. So this is presumably going to be a series of things that are put together in some ordered structure. And their purpose is to see off some undesirable element, and they much prefer a dry and open field to bogs or marshes where they would be mocked and defied. So thoughts that go through my head are possibly something like a scarecrow. The problem with that explanation is that the scarecrows, at least I thought, were generally put up individually. I don't think you would have ranks of scarecrows filling a field. Also, you wouldn't bother putting a scarecrow in a marsh or a bog. There would just be no point. Another possibility is it could be the pillars that make up a fence. The wooden... oh, what are they called? I keep thinking pikes, but that's wrong. Or is that wrong? What's the word for an individual wooden rod that gets driven into the ground? No. Not pike. What's the word for it? I can't think of it right now. Post. That was the word I was thinking of. Post. So another possibility could be wooden posts that are put into the ground to make a fence. I could understand why then they would be mocked, as it were, in bogs and marshes, since the wood would just rot. I mean, we have enough problems as it is with wooden fences rotting when driven into the ground, even with modern substances to help protect them from rot. even in just a normal temperate climate. So I can only imagine the problem would have been infinitely worse back then in a bog or marsh. So what's the full riddle again? Firm our post, a numerous band, in martial order ranged we stand, still ready upon every call, with fury on the foe to fall. See, with fury on the foe to fall just seems a bit excessive, which makes me doubt that it's something like a fence. A subtle foe that here and there in parties rambles everywhere. I mean, that could be vermin of some sort. Ever spoiling and defacing what they chance to find a place in. Ever lurking where they light, till raised by us and put to flight. But O ye powers, of you we crave that aid the generous and brave, when we the injured would redress, and secure innocent distress. When with oppressors vile we strive, and would them from their shelter drive, grant us a dry and open field, for should we summon them to yield, in bogs and marshes still secure, they mock our vengeance and defy our power. How would a fence drive an animal from its shelter, though? It wouldn't. It would just prevent it from travelling further. And it does refer to them having a post in martial order ranged in an open, dry field. If it's in an open field, by implication, I think it's less likely to be a fence. And I say that because when you talk about being in an open field, I think implicitly you think of being in the middle of a field, whereas you'd think of a fence going around the perimeter. Now, I will grant you that what counts as the middle of the field and what counts as the perimeter often can be quite arbitrary. And certainly if you had one big field and then you just put a fence through the middle of it, suddenly you'd say you have two fields. But, as I say, just by the language that's being used, it sounds to me more like this is something that would be freestanding in the middle of a field. So I'm sort of leaning back towards the scarecrow because I can't think of anything else that would make sense. Although again, a scarecrow wouldn't normally drive an animal from its shelter. It would just stop it from settling somewhere, in theory. I don't know. Do we have any guesses from chat? Suppose not. Okie dokie. I'm gonna have to give up, I think. I really don't know. So we're on 157, I think. A broom? Huh. That probably is referring to a specific practice then, that I'm not familiar with. Firm to our post, a numerous band, in martial order ranged we stand. See, to me that doesn't make sense with a broom. Unless they're referring to the bristles of the broom. Firm to our post, a numerous band, in martial order ranged we stand. That's possible, actually. That could be the bristles of the broom. Still ready upon every call, with fury on the foe to fall. Yes, you can very much picture someone or something having a broom dropped on them. A subtle foe that here and there in parties ramble everywhere, ever spoiling and defacing what they chance to find a place in, ever lurking where they light, till raised by us and put to flight. Oh, I wonder if they mean raised by us, they mean roused. If that's the sense of the word they mean. But, O ye powers, of you we crave that aid the generous and brave, when we the injured would redress, and secure innocent distress, when with oppressors vile we strive, and would them from the shelter drive, grant us a dry and open field, for should we summon them to yield, in bogs and marshes still secure, they'd mock our vengeance and defy our power. Yeah, this still doesn't make sense to me. It must be a reference to a specific practice. When with oppressors vile we strive, and would them from their shelter drive, grant us a dry and open field, for should we summon them to yield, in bogs and marshes still secure, they'd mock our vengeance and defy our power. I don't get it. They must have been using brooms for something specific that I don't know about, in which being in a wet environment would have been a massive disadvantage. Strange. So the next one, 158. Long undistinguished as a piece of clay, regardless in the earth concealed I lay, but now a wondrous change, and rose to light, richly adorned with gold in black and white. Now in an ancient fabric stand displayed, where by admiring eyes my form surveyed, or some with silent grief lament to see, others dissolved in tears, that here I be. Yet as I'm fixed I shall for years remain, I taste no pleasure, nor I feel no pain. Here I resemble man that noble make, here the bright figure of some lady take, here represent some venerable sage, there seem an infant in its tender age. Wonders to tell, illiterate I be, yet every language is expressed by me. I flatter and speak truth of old and young, yet am inanimate and have no tongue. None ever sees me, but a conqueror's near, whose warlike trophies I in splendour wear. He spreads his banners all around my frame, while to the world I celebrate his fame. His praise and triumph 'tis my task to show, which all will own, when once my name they know. Now in an ancient fabric stand displayed. What's a fabric stand? I mean, intuitively you'd think it would be a stand for fabric. I don't know. Long and distinguished as a piece of clay, in the earth concealed I lay. But now a wondrous change, I am rose to light, richly adorned with gold in black and white. Richly adorned with gold in black and white. So, I mean, it could be some sort of mineral, or it could be some sort of... I suppose it could be some sort of animal or plant life. If it's an animal, it's probably subterranean. None ever sees me but a conqueror's near, whose warlike trophies I in splendour wear. He spreads his banners all around my frame, while to the world I celebrate his fame. Here I resemble man, that noble make. None ever sees me but a conqueror's near. How can it resemble something if it's invisible? So presumably... Presumably none ever sees me isn't meant to indicate it's invisible? It's very interesting where it says about here I resemble that noble, here I resemble man that noble make, there the bright figure of some lady take, here represents some venerable sage, there seem an infant in its tender age, because it's almost like it's something that's taking the form of things that are around it, perhaps reflecting them. I did wonder at one point if it could be a diamond. It doesn't fully make sense. Long undistinguished as a piece of clay, regardless in the earth concealed I lay, but now a wondrous change and rose to light, richly adorned with gold in black and white. I don't know what the in black and white is a reference to, but I could well believe that a diamond would be richly adorned with gold. Now in an ancient fabric stand displayed, where by admiring eyes my form surveyed. So it does have a form that can be surveyed, while some with silent grief lament to see. I don't see why they would feel grief looking at a diamond, though. Others dissolved in tears that here I be. Yet as I'm fixed, so it's fixed in some sense. I shall for years remain. I taste no pleasure, nor I feel no pain. That's a double negative. Wait, is it? Yes, it is a double negative. Because it should be I taste no pleasure, nor I feel pain. Although the I seems redundant there, so perhaps I taste no pleasure nor feel pain. At least in terms of modern English. This is of course more than 200 years old. Here I resemble man that noble make, the bright figure of some lady take. Here represents some venerable sage, there seem an infant in its tender age. I could actually believe that in terms of allegory. I could very much imagine a noble man being described as a diamond, or a beautiful lady, or the venerable sage, or an infant in its tender age. That would all make sense. Wanted to tell, illiterate I be, yet every language is expressed by me. See, that makes less sense. I flatter and speak truth of old and young, yet am inanimate and have no tongue. None ever sees me but a conqueror's near, whose warlike trophies I in splendour wear. He spreads his banners all around my frame, while to the world I celebrate his fame. His praise and triumph 'tis my task to show, which all will own, when once my name they know. Yeah, I don't know. Any guesses from chat as I look this up? Shame to admit defeat again. But I've been thinking about it a while and I'm still not sure. No? Alright. A monument. I was wondering if it could have been something human-made but ancient. But I certainly didn't come to the conclusion of a monument. Long undistinguished as a piece of clay, regardless in the earth concealed I lay, but now a wondrous change and rose to light, richly adorned with gold in black and white. I don't see how that verse applies. Now in an ancient fabric stand displayed, how would you display a monument in a fabric stand? Admittedly, I don't know what a fabric stand is, but how would you put a monument in anything else? Where by admiring eyes my form surveyed, with some with silent grief lament to see, others dissolved in tears that here I be. Yet as I'm fixed, I shall for years remain. I taste no pleasure, nor I feel no pain. Here I resemble man that noble make, here the bright figure of some lady take. Here represent some venerable sage, there seem an infant in its tender age. Wonders to tell, illiterate I be, yet every language is expressed by me. I flatter and speak truth of old and young, yet am inanimate and have no tongue. None ever sees me, but a conqueror's near, whose warlike trophies I in splendour wear. He spreads his banners all around my frame, while to the world I celebrate his fame. His praise and triumph 'tis my task to show, which all will own, when once my name they know. Jenny says a monument could be made of clay, gold and other materials. It could, but it expressed it with certainty. Richly adorned with gold. Not could be richly adorned with gold. Richly adorned with gold. A monument. Does monument have some meaning I'm not familiar with? Because when it says monument, I'm thinking of a large structure on the ground. Often made of stone, though it needn't be, and built generally to celebrate something. Although again, you know, strictly speaking, that wouldn't have to be the case. A structure built for commemorative or symbolic reasons, or as a memorial, a commemoration. Yes, exactly. An important site owned by the community as a whole, an exceptional proud achievement, an important burial vault or tomb, any grave marker. I didn't know that. A legal document, a surveying reference point marked by a permanently fixed marker, a survey monument, a pile of stones left by a prospector to claim ownership of ore, etc. found in a mine. Surveying, a natural or artificial object used as a reference point. A surviving record. Yeah, none of that makes sense to me. What else could monument be? I'm looking at my physical dictionary now. Written record, anything that serves to commemorate, especially structure, building. The monument, column in London commemorating Fire of London in 1666. Stone or other structure placed over grave, or in church, etc., in memory of the dead. Interesting that it could be a written record. But even then... Okay, so anything commemorative. Long and distinguished as a piece of clay, regardless in the earth concealed I lay, but now a wondrous change and rose to light, richly adorned with gold in black and white. Now in an ancient fabric stand displayed. Do we know what a fabric stand is? No. Where by admiring eyes my forms surveyed, while some with silent grief lament to see, others dissolved in tears, that here I be. Yet as I'm fixed, I shall for years remain. I taste no pleasure, nor I feel no pain. Here I resemble man that noble make, there the bright figure of some lady take. Here represent some venerable sage, there seem an infant in its tender age. Wonders to tell, illiterate I be, yet every language is expressed by me. I flatter and speak truth of old and young, yet am inanimate and have no tongue. None ever sees me, but a conqueror's near, whose warlike trophies I in splendour wear. He spreads his banners all around my frame, while to the world I celebrate his fame. His praise and triumph 'tis my task to show, which all will own, when once my name they know. Jane says a monument can exist in various forms, not necessarily a building. Yes. But usually we mean it as a structure of some sort, even if it's not a building. Like Nelson's Column, that's a monument, but it's not a building. I think this riddle's misleading. I think it implies that all of these things are true, when in fact they are all possibilities. For any given monument, they're not all necessarily true. I also wonder if they were thinking of it as a monument that commemorates someone's life in particular, as opposed to commemorating anything else. As a memorial. Yeah, I'm not convinced by this one. It might just be me, but this one doesn't strike me as such a impressive riddle. Anyway, we'd best finish up. Oh, I still haven't done this. By done this, I mean that the text has been cut off at the bottom because I need to do something about that at some point. Anyway, what was I thinking? Next stream will be Friday. That will be more of the Talos Principle. Saturday, the same. Monday, the same. I assume I'll still be playing it up to that point because after I finish the main story, we have the DLC. Was it The Road to Gehenna? Or something like that, I think. And then we're back round to next Wednesday, which is more poetry and riddles. So, once again, thank you for coming, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll have a wonderful night. And good night.